Gibson Hall. Okay, that's one.
You might have, I have another one, I think. Okay, next one of those.
Well, I've got just a little bit past 9:30. This is our regular monthly business meeting, January 22. I'll call this meeting to order, and if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll get started. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming. We run these meetings by an agenda, and I believe there's an agenda copy for people in the public out there. And I don't think we have any guests to introduce today. We don't. And so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda, if there is one.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
All right, Ms. Henderson moved to approve the agenda, and Bruce moved to second it, and actually seconded it. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that agenda is approved unanimously. Now we'll move down to the approval of the consent agenda, and I would like to point out that on the December 3rd minutes, I'm going to abstain, and I think Rick Hannell will probably abstain because neither one of us were here on that one. On the December 3?
You don't have to excuse yourself.
Well, we'll vote on it, but I just want you to know that. Okay. Let me clarify this. I'm voting for the minutes as presented, except for the December 3 meeting, because I was not here and I should comment on it. So, you have a motion there, Jackie?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a Sanderson move to approve the consent agenda. We have a second. We have a second. Bruce, and any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimously approved. And let the record show that I did note that I did not take action or vote on the December 3rd. We move on to the monthly reports, interim directors, executive director's report. Ken, take it away.
Mr. Chairman, I actually don't have anything specifically to report for this month. I think everything going on this month is pretty much routine. I've corresponded periodically through emails with the board on various topics that have come to come to me for board information. I don't have anything at this point.
Okay. And the chair's report, and I don't have any information either to add to it that was different than our last workshop or anything else we've already discussed. So Bruce is going to do the finance report, and then over to Paul.
Maybe for the TV to come up. So what I'd like to do today is start with a special report about our 2014 audit report results and our management responses to those results. For 2014, the Washington State auditors had 3 management letter items and 2 exit items that where they're suggesting that we make corrections to various parts of our operations. The first was a management letter, item number 1. It was payroll-related salary employee compensation time. They said that the issue was that there was no central control over salary employee compensation time. Salary employees track their own comp time on the bottom of their timesheets, and that led to errors and discrepancies. And if a manager failed to remit a leave form to payroll, the sick leave not deducted from employee's balance in the payroll accounting system. I think that should really say comp time. I apologize for that. The action that we've taken so far is we have our new timesheets tracking system already implemented. After the managers approve those sheets, those timesheets and the leave slips are sent to payroll for review, correction, and reconciliation with payroll accounting. So we have centralized it, and we've changed our procedure to take care of the issue.
Signature.
And yeah, there's also an additional signature from the executive director that goes on those sheets. There was management letter item number 2 related to payroll, executive director comp time, and the contract. So the executive director receiving compensation time is inconsistent with the contract language, which stated contractor's time to be full-time with a maximum of 40 hours being compensated. The second related issue is executive director's contract lapsed for 1 month in 2015. And our corrective action is right now we're currently working with our legal counsel, Mr. Hendricks, to revise the current contract for future board review.
That's item 4 on today's agenda.
Right.
It's actually today's agenda. Management letter, item number 3, this is financially related. We call it errors, omissions, and review. The issue was the statement of net position did not include local sales tax receivable. And there was a second issue, secondary review of financial statements not documented. So we did include local sales tax receivable, 2 months of sales tax receivable on our net position for 2014. We've made that correction. It was implemented, and the auditors were satisfied. And the finance committee, we met this morning, we talked about this issue, and we have a recommendation to deal with the second issue, secondary review of financial statements not documented. So you could address that, Bruce.
Yeah. Our, Jill's, in my opinion, is that the executive director should be the signer as opposed to the committee. You work with it on a daily basis, and we don't. And you're working with him also, and he reports to you, so we kind of felt that you should be the signer.
Good.
Does that take an action?
But I was not a board, my not just internally.
Internal also.
So these are recommendations, exit recommendations. One is vehicle use monitoring. The issue is monitoring of take-home vehicles and fuel use not adequate. So financial analyst myself, I'm researching how we can best do that and process that information for the executive director review and implementation. So we need to basically find the best report that will will analyze both fuel usage and mileage usage, bring those together for a monthly analysis. That's what the auditors are looking for. And after the review of we have a software system that monitors fuel usage for vehicles that are, the sport vehicles that are fueled here, and I think that if there's a report there that could adequately deal with that issue and satisfy the auditors.
So I have a question on that.
Okay.
How do you include the fuel that's in the tank? In other words, that's inventory when you're doing a mileage thing, because you're going to get slips on how much fuel is added.
Yeah, what we do is our system here, every time a vehicle is fueled, they have to punch in their vehicle ID, and it records how much fuel goes into the vehicle.
Yeah, I understand that. Then they're going to record, who records the mileage for that time period?
So the vehicle maintenance does that when those vehicles are serviced. So they actually have a person that goes out and records that mileage and then brings that to another person who records that into a ledger, you might say, and keeps that mileage. I believe it's on a daily basis, maybe even a weekly basis. I have to go check. But so we have the vehicle usage in terms of mileage. We have a fuel usage, and I think we have a report that will bring those two together. So the analysis really boils down to, was there low mileage usage and high fuel usage, or the reverse? And if a red flag is raised, then that person needs to ask some hard questions.
Do you have the hardware and the software system like car rental agencies? When you rent a car, they can tell right away, without looking at the mileage, how many miles are on that thing. It's a radio control system, I guess. It's a chip that's in there, and they monitor the fuel that way too.
We aren't that much.
It's too.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the system actually for the pumps to come on, you have to put in the vehicle number,
Okay.
the person's ID number,
Okay.
and also the mileage of the vehicle at the time of fill up. So all that is being tracked.
Okay.
As well as you had a question about the contents of the tanks. There's a reconciliation done compared to the invoices for when we get filled up. Somebody goes out and actually gets a tape of the contents of the fuel tanks to make sure it's matching with fuel
Okay.
usage.
I reconcile.
So you have a system in place?
Yes, sir.
You can execute it to the satisfaction of the auditors.
That was going to be my point. So we're actually doing what they're asking. They're just wanting it to be more visible
We want
in
to
our.
bring it together.
Yes.
We have all the statistics. What they're asking for is analysis of those statistics on top of that, and maybe even the audit of those statistics. So internally, since we don't have something that could register independently with a computer chip, you might say, that the statistics that are maybe typed into the pump or written down on a ledger perhaps are, we have to take that and go out and ensure that that's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Exit recommendation number 2, current policy doesn't define when an employee is in travel status or the type of eligible costs in travel status. This is needed to identify when meals are allowable as a reimbursable expense. The action we've taken, our administrative manager is researching the appropriate policy language to craft a tighter policy for future board review. So we do have policies, but the auditors feel they're not tight enough. So we're going to be more explicit in tighten that language. So that's the end of the special report. Those were the recommendations that the auditors made for 2015. Financial report for 2015, December 15. I just wanted to show here, it does show December here, but I wanted to show the rest of the year for sales tax and how our actuals, monies received, weighed against what we budgeted on a monthly basis. And you can see those small figures at the very bottom of the chart show month by month whether we exceeded or fell short of what our expectation was. In January, you can see we were about almost 3.5% less than what we budgeted. And then it picked up. You can see, for example, in June, we were 11% higher than what we expected. And for the year, we were 4.14% higher than what we expected, for a total of 9.14% growth over the previous year.
So, and for the 2015 budget, we had budgeted at a number of what percentage?
3%.
3%, so we actually were at 7.14%.
Well, we budgeted, actually in 14, we budgeted 5%, so we were 4.14% higher than the 5% for a total of 9.14%.
Okay. That's in line with where we were.
For 2016, we budgeted 3%.
Very good.
5%
Very
in 14,
conservatively.
or yeah. In 15, we budgeted 5%, in 16, we budgeted 3%.
Good.
Our contracted monthly billings jumped by 14% starting in July of 15. So you can see that effect. We have our Tri-County connector, repair and equalization. So that was a positive for the agency. Here's, for 2015, I'm just showing graphically our cost of operations month by month. You can see the green is our quarterly payroll taxes. The blue is payroll. And the red is our payables, or expenses, you might say. And the one month that jumps out is September. That's when we had to make our WISTA payment for October. We wrote a big check there. And then, you know, the other months are fairly consistent. You're averaging $782,000 per month. Our fuel costs, we saved against our budgeted estimates $534,000. $444,000 was due to price variation, $90,000 was due to usage reduction. And the graph shows the fuel cost month by month. And you can see December was the lowest month in the last 2 years.
The usage reduction, how do we account for that? Because is that because we're using more fuel efficient vehicles? Or?
Well, that's a good
Somewhere in
question.
there
I
you
think,
cut that. Yeah, I mean, you kept like Saturday service and stuff.
Well, that was patent still 2014.
I think part of it also has to do with the budget process. You know, I estimated how many gallons we would be using, and we just came under that.
Oh, okay.
Not in every area, you know, it could be a deeper discussion than probably maybe we could do right now, but in total, we use less fuel than we budgeted.
Excuse me, Paul. That's a significant reduction.
Yeah,
There has to be something in that pattern that justifies such a significant reduction,
in price,
other than just price? Or is it primarily price?
$444,000 is price.
Yeah.
We were budgeting, well, almost double than what we experienced. And we have to do that just based on our experience over the last, say, 10 or 15 years. That we have to walk into a budget expecting to pay maybe upwards to $3.50 or $4 a gallon. Because we can't fall short. We can't budget less money than in any one year than we actually spend. If we spend more than we budget, it's going to really put us in a bad position. So we have to be very conservative and cautious and go based on, you know, history at 10 years.
Yeah, fuel's not going to stay low forever.
Probably not.
It's not just going to explode here in the near future.
But you know, the positive side is that extra money puts us back into a better position cash-wise, which is where we were suffering for a couple of years. We need to build our cash reserves in order to be more stable and being able to weather.
To buffer those peaks and valleys in this
That's right.
system.
Here is average fuel price by vendor. We have APP who delivers our fuel to Libby Island here at this facility. And we have Corey and Comdata, which is the suppliers for our van pools. So they fill their vehicles up at the pump through those vendors. And then there's Island County who supplies us at Camino. And you can see there is quite a bit of variation between those three vendors. APP really is what I would call closer to wholesale price. Corey and Comdata is what I would say is more like what we would see at the pump, taxes included. And then Island County, I would call that wholesale plus administrative additions. They charge an administrative fee, and we get extra service over at Camino to wash our buses. So those are the three differences in price.
Paul, do we pay fuel taxes out of our pump when we buy fuel?
We buy on state contract, and we don't pay certain taxes.
Okay, so, but when you go to Corey,
I think it's added in there.
you are paying tax on that.
It's more like what we would see if we went to those trucks ourselves. Here's a graphic representation of cash flow month by month for the last 2 years. And you can see we've had positive cash flow at least in 2014, every month except for September when we had that WISTA payment. And we had low, you might say, reimbursements. There's a timing problem there sometimes with the reimbursements from the state. So on the reverse side, in December, we had a number of reimbursements there that just came in that month. So we saw a significant cash flow increase. In December, it was $292,000.
I have another question for you. Probably Rick, you can answer this too, but Representative or Congressman Rick Larson was here. Did you share any of this data with him?
We spoke a little bit about finances, but I didn't have my slideshow up ready to go through.
Okay.
This slide talks a little bit about from the angle of what the auditors were looking at. This is based on accrual information with a 2015 projection on it. And as you can see, 11, 12, and 13, we're talking about operating surplus only based off of accrual numbers. And you can see in the first 3 years of this chart, it's showing, being in a negative deficit situation. Whereas in 14, we have those numbers audited already, showing positive surplus, and in 15, we project the same. And the projection I'm showing is 1.4 million and some change, almost 1.5 million. Again, that's operating surplus. So it shows our operations are healthy.
Yeah, not including depreciation.
Right, so if at the end of the year, if you were being audited, they would want to see depreciation. And, in terms of the bottom line surplus deficit. December cash, you've seen this chart before. This is just shows where we are on the spectrum over the last 2 years in our cash position. So there we are, almost $2.5 million.
You got to pick her up for a second, because if you look at the graph, it speaks for itself. Okay, month after month, we came in, we bottomed out beginning of 2014, and it's just been a steady. It's not a huge increase, but it's been steady increase monthly. So I think that says a lot for the agency and the direction we're going.
This is a little wider view of cash. It shows back to 2009. You can see where it was. Maybe you can't get a little too overconfident at this point.
Right.
but we're going in the right direction.
That's right.
That's what I'm trying to point out.
The 2009, though, when you're being a cash position there, does that include your receivables from the feds for the construction?
It wouldn't include receivables, but it would include monies that were saved for the project. So they had quite a bit of cash, at least $4.5 million, right, what makes that project.
Local share.
Their local share, the 20% of that project.
So it was still obligated funds.
Yeah, that was obligated, not restricted in the auditor sense, but it was money that they were holding, probably in investments that they were going to use toward that project. That's included. And this shows our cash by reserve category. We are now putting it, our cash reserves in different categories. You see that 650,000 is what we said we were going to do at the end of 2015. Our budget said another 600,000 in 16, but as of right now, we have almost 1.4 million in just what we're calling operating cash, and then 650,000 in operating reserve, and then our other smaller categories that's holding money either for van purchases or for because we surplus vehicles. Now, a little bit of a report on our ridership. Fixed route ridership is down 25%, 18% decrease in service. Just gives you a little idea. The chart is showing all the way back to 1987. That's where we are now. Camino ridership down 11%, but we also had an 11% decrease in service. So that's
2015 ridership down 11% compared to what previous period?
well. This graph is showing all the way back to 1985. So we're down 11% from last year,
Okay, from last year.
and our service has decreased 11% from last year as well. Just to get an idea of the effect of we decreased service and looks like ridership decreased in sync on Camino Island. Deviated ridership, this is our buses that perform regular service but might deviate to pick up somebody in Pero. We decreased that service by 43%, and our ridership there is down 41%. Paratransit ridership is down 7%. We decreased our service 1% in that area. I was told that we decreased our deviated ridership, but we added a bus to service some of those areas where deviated was no longer picking up. So we didn't quite decrease our service as much as the ridership decreased. And as our system-wide cuts were made, that also decreased the service area for Para slightly. So I think that both those things may account for that decrease in ridership.
Okay, then Paul, when you have a decrease in service, do you have a graph that indicates what do you have a decrease in personnel, or do personnel remain level?
I think that's a good question. There's no doubt that we decreased our personnel in 14.
But you don't have the data or the graph.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go back and look at the details. I do have that information, but it's a little more complicated for a number of reasons. First being is that when we're comparing to 14, our cuts came halfway and late into 14. So we have to take that into account. It was in July and September where it was. And there's also been some shifting of routes and shifting of service in those areas, so it's a little more complicated to answer the question. But it could be done, I'm sure.
Are you saying that you decreased service in some areas and increased it in others?
In terms of routes,
So you're
yes.
shifting it around? So you increased the frequency of service in an area?
Well, when I'm talking about just regular routes,
Okay.
and then, of course, pair, we service those same routes, those same areas, and that's also dependent on the phone calls that we get for service. So, if we reduced our service, say Saturday service, we probably would be running, we wouldn't have a pair on Saturday window. The customers would know that, and they wouldn't call us. Manhole ridership was down 8%. Kind of think that might be because maybe the rider's economic situation and fuel prices may cause them to shift. The bottom line is total ridership in 2015 is down 23%, and that's how it looks graphically. It's actually shown for over 2 years. Get a little wider perspective of where we are.
Paul, I'm just curious, excluding paratransit and vanpool, how accurate is our count of the ridership and all the other routes? I mean,
it's always impossible to say, if anyone's clicking that clicker properly, but I would say they're very accurate, and so I think it's pretty close. I heard different accounts, what's the percentage? I would say they're probably in the high 90%. I mean, they're probably right on it. The drivers are very experienced. They perform this operation almost instinctively.
I assumed that was the way. Thanks.
This is my last slide. It touches on financial stabilization, and it asks the question of how healthy are we. Now, it only goes through 2014 because I was using audited financial information in order to do this. But the state auditor sets guidelines as to the health of an organization, and so I thought I would just follow this format a little bit. So the first line is, can we pay our bills? Current ratio, current assets over current liabilities could help answer that question. The SAO guideline is 1.25, and in 2014 we're 1.89. So I would say that we meet that standard. Our operation sustainable. Operating margin is a ratio that we could answer that question. Operating revenues over operating expenses, not including depreciation. And the standard that SAO sets is greater than 100%. And for 2014, we're 103%, almost 104%. You can see that what I pinked out there, or light purple, shows when we didn't meet the standard. Are we improving our financial condition? It's a change in net position. It's showing that our net position decreased, so we didn't meet it in 2014. I think I attribute that to we have a declining net position due to increased depreciation on this facility. Depreciation is included in that ratio. And we also took on 2 loans, 2 notes and a bond in 2014. So our liabilities increased and our position decreased. Is our entity sustainable? Cost recovery ratio, this is total revenues over total expenses, not including depreciation. Closely aligned to the operating margin ratio. The cost recovery ratio was a total. Is it greater than 100%? In 2014 it was. What's our ability to address emergencies and unexpected needs? Fund balance sufficiency. It looks at the number of days our unrestricted retained earnings, and we're still under 60 days, but we're climbing relative to 2013. So we're still in the purple, you might say, but.
And on that item where you have the 170 and the 64, that's affected by the funds that you have set aside.
That's right.
For the pay.
And that might have been part of the problem. Is it's difficult to see.
It looks good, but it's not really.
It's
that
masked by cash that is restricted for real capital
good.
purposes.
Doesn't reflect the obligation if it's still outstanding.
So hopefully that helps in answering that question about financial stabilization. And that's all I have for my report.
Well, thank you, Paul. And, you know, I want to thank you and the rest of the staff for your efforts on this stabilization plan that we're trying to put Island Transit in here into good financial position. And, you know, I think a lot of the pressure came from the public too, the public, the employees. And, you know, we don't do this by ourselves. You know, we're just ordinary people up here trying to do a good job every day. But we are very interested in the stability of this facility, because without having a good financial platform to work with, we're always going to be touch and go. And, so thank you very much. The next item on our regular agenda is item number 1, resolution 1-16, the Board of Directors of Adams County Public Transportation Benefit Area, amending the further defining resolution number 12-96, which establishes an operating reserve account, and that is for you to move forward with, Ken, or Paul again.
Okay, the substance of this resolution is to mandate 3 months of total reserves, whereas 2 of the 3 months are what we call an operating reserve under the designation of the board for any deposits or withdrawals. So we want to save 3 months of operating money, 2 of which are, in a sense, kind of off to the side, reserved, you might say, for emergencies or other things, and also controlled by the board to dictate when an emergency is identified and the money is released. So that's the substance of the resolution.
And technically, those would become restricted funds too, correct?
Not technically. The auditor wouldn't call them restricted, he'd call them assigned.
Assigned or obligated funds. Okay. And then on this, it's my recollection that we were talking about 5 years, and you have 10 years down here to obtain the target of 2 months. What happened there?
What we said is that we originally said that we wanted to do it in 10 years, but through our 6-year plan that we drew up, that we could probably achieve it in 5 years.
Okay.
So we're targeting to achieve it faster than the deadline you might say we're setting for ourselves.
Well, any comments?
Yes, in paragraph 3, okay, you stated that the auditor is going to call it an assigned operating reserve. So I would like to, the paragraph read something like this: the board, through its budget process, shall endeavor to fund and assign operating reserve over 10 years with a target amount of 2 months operating expenses. Then, in addition, the board shall also endeavor to maintain a general operating cash, because you've got 1 month operating expenses is your operating cash. It's not a reserve. That is your check account.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I would strike the word reserve there and make this up here, an assigned operating reserve. And then the last sentence where it says 3 months operating reserves, it's not 3 months operating reserves, it's 3 months operating expenses between these 2 accounts.
Okay.
I missed the logic of that one, Rick.
Because it's
3
not-
months operating reserve, you're talking about reserves or cash up above.
Right, you've got 2 months operating reserves, 1 month operating cash equals 3 months operating expenses. So 2 months are assigned that cannot be touched without board approval.
Right.
1 month's worth is general operating cash that equals 3 months operating expenses both between the 2. It's not 3 months operating reserves because one is operating cash.
And maybe eliminate
So that-
the letter A in front of it, general, because it sounds better.
Yeah.
Maintain general operating cash of 1 month.
Yep. Does that make sense?
Okay, yep.
So it clarifies it. If you use reserve here and reserve over there, it's saying, well, no, you don't have a checkbook.
That's right.
One is cash, one is assigned reserve. And I'm sorry if I beat this to death through this, but you just showed it in your drafts
No, I.
What happened from 2009 to 2014, and it's because they took $4.5 million that should have been assigned reserves and used it as general operating cash. And that's what got us to 2014. So,
It definitely makes it a lot clearer.
yeah.
Any other comments regarding this? No other comments regarding this. We have a motion to approve resolution number 1-16 as amended, paragraph 3, adding assigned, the word assigned before operating reserves, striking the word reserves after cash, second sentence, and striking the letter A preceding general operating cash, and striking the word reserve in the final sentence following the word operating.
And change it to
Change it to
expenses.
expenses.
Do you have a motion?
Yes, I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Henderson made a motion to approve resolution number 1-16 as amended in paragraph 3, second by Mr. Hanover. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And then we will sign this at the end of the meeting. Are you going to need an approved clean set for our signatures?
You can strike an initial,
Yeah,
but
you know, it's fine with me.
yeah.
You could probably do it while we're in executive
Okay,
session or something.
all right. So therefore, we're going to move on to business item number 2, resolution number 2-16. Board of Directors of Island County Public Transportation Benefit Area Corporation, superseding resolution number 9-01, and appointing an agent to receive the claim against the PTVA under chapter 4.96 RCW. And Ken, would you take that? Because I don't fully understand this one.
This is a housekeeping item, so to speak. I'm going to defer to Matt.
I'll start with just a little bit of background on that because that is a bit of a housekeeping. Under Washington law, before a claimant files a lawsuit against any municipality, they're required to file a notice of claim to the municipality 60 days before a lawsuit is commenced. In 2001, they changed that law because there was some confusion of who was to receive the claim, so the legislator changed that law to require that each and every municipal government record in the county that they're formed in a notice or a resolution designating precisely who that claim is to be served on. In 2001, Island Transit did follow the law, and we did record that resolution. However, it was specifically to the named executive director at the time, the named person. This one, that person's no longer here.
So it names a position.
This one, we made it so it actually, we named 2 positions. We named the executive director, and we also named the claims administrator of the entity, so the claimant has potentially 2 people to serve that claim on to be compliant with the statute.
Who would be the claim?
It's Stacy right now. All right. And once this is done, we'll mechanically take it, put a cover sheet on it, and we'll have this reported to the Island County reporters.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2-16.
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Hanold moved to approve resolution 2-16 as presented, second by Ms. Henderson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carried unanimously. Then we have, back to the revised, we have a selection of the Board Finance Subcommittee. Is our next item.
Well, I would move to select, what is it? Jill and our newest board member, and I'm sorry I'm blocking out
Bruce.
Bruce, to serve on the board of directors finance subcommittee.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Good. So Ms. Henderson moved to appoint Jill and Bruce on his first names.
Yeah, I was about to put second last name in there.
Okay. Because I'm a little bit embarrassed because I forgot the last name too.
No, I'm sorry,
Smith.
Bruce. I wanted
So
to call,
used to
I wanted to call
one.
you, I actually wanted to call you Rick, because there's so many
Too
Ricks.
many.
I know.
Okay, the motion is to appoint Jill Johnson and Bruce Smith to.
Alan.
Jeez. Gail, turn that thing.
Okay, well, we're gonna restart it, right? Hold on, 1 minute.
Sometimes it just
I'll second the motion to appoint Jim Allen and, or Bruce Allen.